If I asked myself and I had £4,000 in my pocket, would I buy this or the Hunter? Now it's tricky, isn't it? Right, here we are, everybody. As promised, we're on the GB350. The weather is appalling. Um, I was in 2 months whether to actually do this ride out today and wait till the weather's a bit better. But I think we'll have a quick look at the bike, and then I'll do some more riding with it. But my first impressions are very, very favourable. I was quite shocked at how good this bike is, and I didn't want to be all gushing about it. But yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised how good this is. But let's go and have a quick look, and then we'll have a better talk about it. So, what are my initial impressions? I'm really shocked, actually. You know, when you come to something and you think, I want to be sort of slightly underwhelmed by something, and this is really, really actually a lovely bike. The looks of it are really, really cool, and I was surprised actually how much I liked it. Now, I've come up on the Hunter today, and I'm going to do a little bit about the Hunter and the direct comparisons between the two. The actual looks of this bike, are very different to the Hunter in its feel and all the rest of it. And when you sit on it, it feels like a much bigger bike than it really is, which is quite surprising. So if I just sit on this, and what I mean by that is actually the reach, it the bars are wider, and it just feels like a really big bike. It's really quite surprising. Clutch is incredibly light, but to ride, and obviously I am going to film some riding and I'm going to get soaking wet. I'm probably going to kill my camera, but to ride it feels very, very similar to the Hunter. The actual engine, the behaviour of the engine, the way it rolls along the ground, and that it's very familiar, which is really interesting. I thought it was going to feel much different, but it doesn't. It actually feels really familiar riding this, which is why I wanted to bring the Hunter up today. And obviously I'm riding in this shocking weather. It really is quite bad. Instrument layout is quite nice. So you've got the little, if I switch it on, you've got your warning lights and stuff on here. Single clock. When I saw these in India, I wasn't very impressed. I thought they looked a little bit cheap. But on here, and whether that's because these are Japanese made bikes, and I've had that confirmed to me today, these are actually made in Japan, not in India, and that may be the overriding difference here, is that the quality of the items on here just seem that little bit different. Although you would think that the bikes in India would have identical components, they'd just be shipped out and assembled there, but maybe there is a bit of a difference between the two, which is why I thought in my head I thought I was going to be underwhelmed by it, but I'm actually not. I'm actually really pleasantly surprised how nice this bike is. So if you can see through the grime, when you look at the fit and finish, the welding's nice. The actual finish itself, when it was in the shop when I picked it up a minute ago, it was absolutely immaculate. But obviously now it's filthy dirty. But from most angles, this bike looks absolutely stunning. I'm really surprised. But it's just that thing, when you sit on it, it doesn't feel that big a bike. It does feel a little bit bigger than the Hunter, but not a lot. And Honda have been incredibly, I want to say, aggressive into the pricing of this, because it's now pretty much tied exactly with the Hunter. So it's a bit like what's the jargon that people come out with these days, executive jargon, isn't it? This is like a business interrupter, isn't it? I think people like that interrupter stage on these, and it's going to do that. But I think I don't think this will it compete with the classic 350? Probably, but it's more aimed at the Hunter, because that's got such a huge market share, particularly in India. And I think it's Enfield's best-selling bike now. So this has really pitched itself right in the middle of that fight now. And when you look at the pricing of Honda, what they're doing with some of their bikes, you know, the Hornet and stuff like that. I mean, they really are pricing their bikes into the fight now, which is really interesting, isn't it? But you know, overall, this bike just looks epic. I was really surprised. It's not that I didn't want to like this bike. It's just that I just thought, I want to be underwhelmed by it, so I can say the Hunter's great because I've got one. Right, come on in. Let's go for a ride. I'm already wet. It doesn't really matter now, does it? But I'm doing it for you, everybody out there. The mirrors are not the greatest, I would say, but they could probably do a little bit more, but that's actually not too bad. Okay, so you've got a fog light button on here. That's really rather random, isn't it? That's a big button there. It's sort of slightly contradictory, some of this bike, isn't it? When you think, oh well, you've got the you know, the Honda build quality and all the rest of it, and then they put a thing like that. Maybe they went to the same shop as BSA with their auxiliary socket output and they found that. But yeah, but it doesn't detract actually. You just think it might be a bit more important than just fog lights, but the fog lights are pretty impressive. Right, come on in, let's not waste any more time, let's go riding. As I said, that clutch is incredibly light. I'm going to turn around here because this is like the road to nowhere. If I could just get that blooming rain to hold off. So this is the thing with this bike. This is the riding with it is that it feels so much like the Hunter. And I'm pleased about that in as much as I didn't want it to be a lot better than the Hunter. That's bad, isn't it? But you know, it does ride nice. It does ride nice, engine wise, and actually the sound is very similar to the Hunter. If I shut my eyes, I don't generally shut my eyes when I'm riding a bike, but I would think I was on the Hunter. The difference is between the two riding wise is that it's wider. The tank's quite a bit wider and the seat is wider, so actually my butt is more supported on this. Let's see if I can put my visor down. Yeah, that's a bit better. It was so dirty and horrible coming over here this morning that the road dirt was terrible on my visor. So yeah, the actual riding, it's just that width of the bar, and it does feel like a big bike. It does feel like a big bike. Do you know what it feels like? The Interceptor in the actual riding position is more like the Interceptor there, which is quite interesting. So it's sort of like Hunter riding characteristics, but with Interceptor riding style. I hope you're understanding all this. Clutch is incredibly light though, it's really light. Right, open the visor again. But it is actually, do you know what, it's a nice place to be. I sort of came to the idea of this bike that it was going to be a bit light and flimsy and just, you know, a £3,950 bike that was worth £3,950. When you get on the Hunter, you know, it's a same price, but you think you're getting more bike for your money, and this I thought you would just be getting, you know, it's a cheap bike that Honda put together to capture a bit of the market, and that, you know what, that's not the case. This feels like a really nice piece of machinery. So the engine, then what's the engine like? Well, obviously I can't go blasting around the roads on this today, but just opening it up there in third, do you know what, it's smooth. I would say on the smoothest engine of the J series engine, it's a little bit more refined than the J series. Yeah, it's like anything with these small capacity bikes. You've got to be in the right gear at the right speed to get the best out of them. Because at the end of the day, this is still a bit of a plodder, I suppose. But it's none the worse for that. And I think the other thing with this bike is because it's so cheap, it's the sort of bike that you probably won't mind spending a little bit of money on getting the bits that you want on it, just to, you know, customize it a bit. This grey colour on this bike is it's very the colour of the now, isn't it? This grey, people like this grey. It's what did I ride the other day, and I said it's like everybody's kitchen, isn't it? Everybody's got their kitchen done in this colour, all their cabinets and stuff. But it's yeah, it does look good in this colour, and I actually thought that rear seat cowling was going to spoil it a little bit. I'd sooner have had it in a very standard sort of trim. But actually, that cowling, I'm always amazed when people put tiny little things on their bikes like that can make such a big difference. It reminded me a little bit of the Kawasaki W800, I want to say the calf racer version. You know, they do that one with the sort of slightly lower bars. It has that little bit of that impression about it. But that's no bad thing, as far as I can tell. I do like this tank. I do like the width of this tank. You really feel you've got quite a big bike underneath here. That's a nice thump. It's got a really nice thump, this engine. Again, very similar to the Hunter, but it does feel like a bigger engine than the Hunter in that respect. The Hunter has that slight urgency about it because the engine management has been changed slightly on the Hunter in that J series configuration compared to the classic 350. With the classic 350, let's take a different route here. Let's avoid some of these traffic lights. Don't know where we're going. The classic 350 has been set up so it is a real thumper. The Hunter is just a bit more, not aggressive, but it revs a bit higher. It's a different tune on that bike. Whereas this is sort of in between. But you know what? You feel like you've got quite a lot of length in this engine that you're not going to run out of steam. I'm going to see if I can get somewhere where I can open it up a little bit. Suspension feels okay. A little bit softer than the Hunter. The Hunter is a little bit more choppy than this. Over small chops like this this feels a bit more compliant, I'd say, than the Hunter. Yeah, you can feel the different tuning in this, definitely. Good sound though. Sounds good. I think when I get to the bottom of this hill, I'm going to spin it around and pull it up the hill and see what the torque of the engine's like. I mean, it's identical really to the J series, isn't it? In terms of its power output. Don't know whether that was deliberate to do that, because you'd think that you would punch a little bit higher, wouldn't you? Maybe give it about 25 horsepower, 25 newton meters of torque. So it is slightly odd in that respect. Right, we're in third. I was going to chug back up this hill. You won't see it on the camera as usual. But let's see what this hill's like. Yeah, I mean, this is quite steep, this hill. Still in third. So I'm not pulling too many revs here. Let's pop it into fourth. Yeah, still just getting to accelerate a little bit. As we go up in the rain. Lovely. Yeah, we'd still drop it down here. If I was obviously pushing a little bit more, I'd be up in and forth, no problem. Yeah, third's a good gear for this bike. The ratios aren't that close. I think I had somebody else say they thought the ratios were very close, but they didn't feel like it for me. I think they're reasonably spread. I know that Enfield are fantastic with their gearboxes and getting the ratios, just a really nice spread of ratios. This is, not really any different. I'm going to turn around about it. Right, I'm going to see if I can get up to, yeah, good. Yeah, that's nice. That's really nice. Obviously, it needs running in. All these engines, I always think they need a couple of thousand miles on them before they really come good. Hunter was like that. The Hunter's fantastic now that it's been well running. Brakes are very good. Certainly on par with the Hunter. I mean, Hunter's got the Brembo, cheap Brembos, and this has got the nice in. So which I presume nice is actually part of Honda. I'm not sure. A bit like a Showa, isn't it, really? Right, the GB350. Interesting bike, isn't it? This was a bike that I wanted to be underwhelmed by for some reason. I thought, right, I'm going to get on this GB350. Everybody's saying it's fantastic, and I'll get on it, and it won't be as good as I thought it was. But you know what? It actually is. It's actually really, really good. And interesting, just to clarify a couple of things in my head, because I thought this was actually made in India. I thought this was going to be churned out of the Honda's Indian plant, but it's not. It's actually made in Japan. And apparently it was specified by the European buyers that they wanted this bike, which is actually manufactured in Japan and not in India. I don't really know why they wanted to do that. It seemed a bit daft, really. But, whatever. But I was really surprised how much I like this. I like the size of it. I like the width of the tank. You feel like you're on a bigger bike than you would think. So that's quite nice. But the actual overall riding feel of the bike is very, very similar to the Hunter. Very similar. The main differences are the width of the bars. So it gives you the impression that you're on a bigger bike than a 350, more like a 500. Which I really liked, and the seat is wider, or it feels wider. The thing with the Hunter, the seat drops away a little bit. This doesn't. So you've actually got a lot of support. I can imagine this is a really good bike for a long ride. Really comfy. I know this bike has got a few extras on it. It's got the tail cowl on it. I don't know if I'd really want that. That it's okay, but these options you can take off. It's got the heated grips, it's got the engine bars and stuff, so you've got everything on this one, so it's giving you a slight false impression of what you really get. But I think without all of this stuff, this bike would be really nice. Just that real simple, everyday, small capacity, good fuel economy sort of bike. I think the fuel economy is about 70 to the gallon. I think that's what you expect, and that's what I tend to get from the Honda. I might get a little bit more from the Honda actually than that. But the question is, I suppose, that I would ask myself is, would I sell the Hunter to buy this now this is on the market? The answer to that is no. I don't think there's enough difference for me to think, yes, I got to get off that Hunter because it's not good enough. I want to get onto this bike. But if I asked myself, and I had £4,000 in my pocket, would I buy this or the Hunter? Now it's tricky, isn't it? That's a really tricky question. And one I don't think I can answer honestly at the moment. I think with my head, you're buying that, aren't you? You're buying Honda. With my heart, when I look at the Hunter, my Hunter in particular, I love the look of that bike. I just think it's a great, cool looking bike. And there's nothing different in the performance of the two. They're so close. I do think this is slightly smoother. at the moment, but this is a new engine, so you have to take that into account. It's a newer bike. It's only got 150 miles in it or something, so you've got to take that into account. Where the Hunter is now well run in, and I think the Hunter's engine is more, I like to say, urgent. It's a bit more aggressive, the Hunter engine. In terms of the quality of the two bikes, I don't think there's a lot in it. I think maybe the finish on this is probably slightly better than the Hunter, a little bit, in areas, some of the welding and stuff like that, but not enough to make you think, well, one's worse than the other. I think the colour combinations that Enfield do might be better than this. I don't think you get enough colour options. I think if they did these in some sort of retro colours, the oranges and stuff, I think this would be fantastic. But again, this is cheap enough, isn't it, that people will buy this bike and customise it. Pardon me. You're going to see a load of customisation of this bike, without a doubt. You're going to see this bike customised because it's cheap enough to get into that market. Reliability, we don't really know, but in Japan, there's no common known issues, I think, with this bike. This engine is only used in this bike, so but I don't think the engine's not going to be complicated. It looks easy to service, everything's easy to get to, so that's the thing. But my overall impression is, I think it looks fantastic. Let's do some in conclusion. I think the bike looks fantastic. I really do. I think it rides as good as it looks, and that's saying quite a lot. I like the dash. I like the handlebars. I like the functionality of everything. It's good. Yeah, I was really shocked. I'm tempted. I'm taking the Enfield Bear out next week, and that's another bike that I'm interested in possibly part exchanging or getting rid of the Interceptor for. Having the Hunter, we're not going to sell the Hunter. We're not going to buy this. This would be too tall for Karen anyway. It's quite a tall bike, but it is a really nice piece of kit. Let's take it off the stand. Let's take it off that centre stand. I've had to be very careful where I put all this. It's quite tall. I am flat-footed, but only just. It's good. When you sit on here, it is very much like the Interceptor. The actual position and where I am and what I look at is very, very Interceptor-ish. Very Interceptor-ish. And that's quite impressive. And I mentioned that on the ride round. It rides like the Hunter, but it feels like the Interceptor. So the engine and the characteristics like the Hunter, but it rides like the Interceptor. It's quite interesting, isn't it? Very interesting. Right, I think I'll wrap it up there because I'm really wet. I want to get back. I've no idea where I am. So I'll get the bike back. Thanks again to Doble's Motorbikes for lending me this. But yeah, what an interesting piece of kit. Yeah, I'm quite shocked how good this is. And I think it will sell really well in the UK. I think it'll sell really well. And there's obviously quite a few bikes now coming in. So, yeah. Right, thanks for watching. I'm going to go and dry out. I'm going to get a cup of tea, dry out. I've got a Snickers in my pocket. Do me dialogue, good, isn't it? And I'll see you in the next one. Take care, everybody. See you soon.